Welcome to the Naked Truth
Uncut.
with yours truly, Miss Mo.
And it's your boy King Leo.
Here is where we will share our experiences with life, heartache, pain, suffering, sorrow, defeat, and loss. Not only will we expose our darkness, but we will introduce to you the light through our faith in the God that overruled it all.
Praying peace possess my soul, cause I've been seeking and running looking for you. It's your light in the darkness seeing me through. Said I've been seeking and running looking for you. It's your light in the darkness seeing me through. I need a savior. I'm tired of running. What should I do? What should I do? Yo, what's up, everybody? We are ecstatic to be back before you all. I know it's been a little minute, but we are back with the Naked Truth Uncut. I am King Leo. Miss Mo, how are you, and what are we talking about today?
I am blessed and highly favored. And today's topic, I didn't even ask, how are you?
I'm good.
That's good.
I'm blessed, thank you.
Today's topic is living way too small.
Yeah, what do you mean by that? You care to?
What I mean by that is that sometimes life can be calling us and pulling us and trying to expand us into a bigger space, meaning living outside of our normalcy, living outside of the box, living outside of fear, and living outside of our yesterdays.
Yeah, that's true. And what do you think that why do you think people struggle with this idea of living beyond small places?
Sometimes people can struggle because they don't believe in themselves enough. There are other times that people can struggle because they are afraid of the responsibility of wealth.
Is that I mean, yeah, I could see that. I feel like a lot of times, I think the biggest problem, I think you mentioned it, but like, is believing in yourself. You know what I mean? Is believing that you are far beyond, where you are right now in your life. A lot of us, we adopt this small mindset to where everything that we think is small, everything that we do is small, and we become so accustomed to that. And like you said, it can be a fear, that some people may have of expanding, you know what I mean? Because they may feel like, what if I drop the ball, or what if I am not able to live up to the expectations? And we should never be, living, to the expectations of people. We should always live up to the expectations of God first and self. But at the end of the day, sometimes people feel like, what if I fail? Or what if I make a fool of myself, and things like this is just what I believe personally, that some people struggle with, even like in myself, you know what I mean? Like, I can admit that I, sometimes will struggle with that, you know what I mean? And if I'm not careful, I can still struggle with, with that. And there's a lot of times where I feel like I am bigger than where I'm at, you know what I mean? And some of our struggles is that we just don't know how to tap into that next realm, you know what I mean?
Wow, that was powerful. Not knowing how to tap into the next realm. And even though we may not know how to tap into it, but if we put our hearts and our minds and our faith and trust in God, I promise you, He will lead us into the tapping room where we need to tap into the places that are calling us into bigger realms of our lives. And as for myself, oftentimes in my past, and if I'm not careful, I'm so comfortable with being behind the scene that to ask me to come forward to be in a spotlight is challenging for me, because I'm not a person that has to be in the spotlight, has to be seen, has to be popular or whatnot. But I know that greater is calling me, and that there's a greater destiny. There's a greater responsibility. There's a greater gain to my life. And that I remember when we were in Jersey and we were shopping in Newark, Jersey, and this man that prophesied to me as before I crossed the street, he said to me, "You have millions of people waiting on you." And I was in a funk that day because I had recently left Detroit maybe a year before that time of meeting him. And I just didn't want to hear nothing about what I'm called to do because I was angry with life. But to hear him say that, and I can still hear his voice in my head to this day, saying that you have millions of people waiting on you. And in my mind, sometimes I say, how can I serve the millions? Mm-hmm. And every day I ask myself that question. What is so great in me that will qualify me to serve millions? And sometimes the fear of that will make me feel safe in a small room when the small room is uncomfortable for me.
Mm-hmm. I think that's for a lot of people that have that mindset, of obviously thinking outside of their what's normal to them. They have that mindset as well, and it could be a struggle. You know what I mean? Depending on how you looking at it, So for me, my thing is that I don't want to say hate. I feel like that's kind of a strong word to use, but my struggle is, like I stated, of feeling that I'm in a small space and feeling that there's something bigger that's like on the inside of me that's that's there just waiting to pop. You know what I mean? And like I said, of not knowing how to actually tap into it. Well, let me not say knowing how to tap into it, because I feel like I'm already like doing the work that's necessary. You know what I mean? In order to get to where I feel God is ultimately desiring to take me in my life. You know what I mean? I think the biggest thing for me, if I was to be honest, is just the patience, side of it. A lot of us, we have bigger thoughts and we have bigger dreams and goals, but some of us, we just don't have the patience. You know what I mean? And for other people, they're just too patient. You know what I mean? Which can be true.
That is me. I'm patient.
Yeah, I mean, like, being honest, and like you watch me in my life, and I watch you in your life too. And there's a lot, you always talk about how me and my sister like tell you like, Mom, like, you should be doing this or you should be doing that. But then you know how you always fall into your bubble because you love your bubble. But like, that's just how you are. But it's just like, we can see the bigger picture. You know what I mean? Not saying that you can't see it, but we can see the bigger picture. And so like, we try to push that, like really push that upon you and try to, make you like see that as well. And I get it, you know what I mean? But like I said, you're the person that's like, I'm patient. I'm going to trust God. I have the faith. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're a believer that faith without works is dead, because obviously you don't just, sit around and just say, God, make this appear. No, you actually, like, I see you do the work and put in the work and stuff like that. But like, you're the person that has that patience. You know what I mean? And you can like just be okay with where you are right now in the season of your life. But as for like people like me, and it's just being honest, I think that's where my biggest struggle come from. And that's why I find myself in places sometimes where I get tired. You know what I mean? I don't know. I feel emotional right now. But like, I get tired.
Let vulnerability showcase itself.
Oh my God, this sounds like a radio ad, bro. But like, no, like that's just how I feel. You know what I mean? I feel like there's always more that we can be doing as a people when we look out into the world and we look out into our communities and stuff like that. I feel that there's so much more that we can be doing, but I also have to learn to adopt the mindset and to adapt my lifestyle to this is that everything happens in due season. Everything has a time and a place. And for where I am right now, God is using all that he is using right now in this season of my life to prepare me for the next. So I guess that's where my mindset has to eventually evolve to.
And one thing I want to say to you is that you don't think that what you're doing is enough.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people struggle with that, but I struggle with that too.
Yeah, and when you get in a place to where you despise not the small beginnings, the small steps, and the small accomplishments that you are having in your life, then you can celebrate those places. And the more you celebrate your beginnings, the bigger the room gets for you.
Yeah, that's true. You tell me that all the time. I think too, like I think I appreciate the small beginnings. You know what I mean? I just always think like, what's next? You know what I mean? Like it's not that I don't always feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like sometimes I do too much. To be honest with you, you know what I mean? Like sometimes, the only reason why I say that is because I feel like sometimes like I put a lot on my plate. You know what I mean? Like I'll say, all right, let me do Bible study 3 times a week. Then let me add in the men's Bible study group. Then let me try to keep up with the podcast. And then when people reach out to me and they want advice or whatever it is, I'm like, okay, let me do all of that. So I feel like the workload is there. You know what I mean? I think my biggest focus is like how you stated. I have to not be too concerned about the platform, being bigger than what it needs to be right now, because obviously God, he'll never put more on us than we can bear. He'll never give us more than we can handle. He gives us exactly what he knows that we can handle in a particular area or space or season in our lives. And so I think that's where I need to get to within myself and in my spirit, to where I can be more at peace with that, is like not despising my platform, because I think, to be honest, the platforms that we have is very, very powerful. You know what I mean? The Instagrams of the world, the Facebooks, the Twitters and stuff like that is very, 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 very powerful. But I think I get in my head too much, with the prophecies, and this is going to happen and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And like I said, I'm a person that I think that rushes life too much instead of enjoying each moment. And so, like, instead of rushing life, like I said, just allowing it to happen. And that's the thing that I'm trying to,
And that's why these moments keep reoccurring in your life, because until you get in that place where you are content with the state you're in, and that you can enjoy the journey and the process, and that you can celebrate your waiting room, then you will see the changes. Until then, you will continue to allow whatever state of mind or being that you're in to discourage you.
Right.
Because one thing about God is that he's not watching a clock. It's us that watch the clock. And every time a minute goes by, it can either inspire, encourage, or motivate us, or it can deplete us. It can destroy us. Because I was once a person that watched the clock. I remember when God promised me years ago in my early 20s that he was going to bless me with 2 babies, that he was going to bless me with a child. And do you know how long that took? I was 37, close to 38 when God blessed me with 2 babies. And even though they didn't come out of my womb, because I know in my early 20s, I was pronounced sterile for 2 tubal pregnancies that I had, losing 2 of my babies, but it didn't make me give up my faith in God. And the thing that we need to get away from is that just because the word goes out on Sunday, sometimes it'll appear on Monday or next week, but other times it takes weeks, months, days, and even years. And all God wants to know is, do you trust me? Will you still wait on me? Because when you show God that you're tired of your small places, then he'll allow you to sit there even longer until you become grateful for your small beginnings. Because first, he has to trust you. And if you can give up in the small room, anything can happen in the big room, and you will lose your way and lose out on serving your God.
That's true. And it's always easier, said than done, because like sometimes I find myself, even what you just said to me, like I'll find myself preaching that same lesson or message to people. And then it's just like, for me, sometimes it's kind of hard to digest it myself. And I feel like a lot of us do that. We struggle with that. Like, it's easier for us to say or to encourage or to inspire somebody else, you know what I mean, to do it. But then it's just like when it's your turn to actually live out what you're saying and what you're talking about and preaching, sometimes it could be a struggle. But I mean, I definitely see where you're coming from. And I do need to learn how to, like I stated, to be more appreciative even in the small like areas, small rooms in my life or the waiting room or whatever like that. But like, yeah, like I that's something I'm working,
Yeah.
towards and
And
everything.
you gotta overcome it. The
Yeah.
Bible says that if be not weary in well doing, that if you faint not, you shall reap your reward. And a lot of times, don't let, because one thing you have to understand about God is that once the word goes out of his mouth, it shall do exactly what he said it will do. And if he didn't put a date and a time on it, then why are you stressing?
Right.
Why are you worried?
Right.
Because one thing I've learned is that I've learned to love my small beginnings. And the more I appreciate them, the bigger my life gets. Even I thank God that there was a time that I hung out with small people, small minded people, people that didn't have a vision, a goal, or some type of dream. There was times that I felt so comfortable in that kind of circle. And I thank God for when he asked me to leave them, they or the others, that I was willing to do it. Even though I walked alone, I'm grateful that I was willing to sacrifice the small company so that I can be put in companies that are greater. And not saying those people are evil and just dogmatic
No,
or
but I
whatever,
understand.
but God is always, Zion is always calling us higher into a bigger room. And we have to be patient. Again, with the call, we have to be patient, whatever state of being or mind that we're in the moment. And again, you will take the test over and over until you pass it.
Right. I actually wrote a podcast episode for like a topic on that. I think it's called I Am My Circle. And and I'm gonna talk about that as well. Like how when you mentioned that, a lot of times I think that's people's biggest problem as to why they never elevate from that small mindset or thinking in their lives, is because a lot of times people don't realize one of the biggest things that play a role in your life is the people that you keep around you.
Amen.
And like that's what can either motivate you or that can keep you in a place to where you're not motivated at
Where
all.
you're small.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know how the saying it goes, but it says something like if you look around in your circle and you're not motivated, that's not a circle. It's I think it's like a box or something like that. So basically you're boxed in is what I think it's trying
And
to
there's
say.
another one that says that if you're the biggest one in your circle, you're in the wrong circle.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, because you should always
Because
be in
you
a,
will be drained
Yeah.
carrying a bunch of people that all they do is take and never reciprocate back to you the things that you have given to them.
Right.
And I am so careful about the company I keep, because I found out in life that some people rather see you small, because misery loves company. And if you even look like you trying to grow, people will come against your mind, your spirit, your heart, your life. They will create all kinds of hell for you so that you don't get bigger than them, because some people love to stay in small places. And God is desiring that all of us
come higher.
get in a place where we want more.
Right.
And I'm not just talking about no more money, more fame, more this, that. I'm talking about more wisdom, more knowledge, more morals, more values, more worth. You see what I'm saying? Where we can see ourselves bigger than our history, bigger than our background, bigger than our past, bigger than our mistakes. God wants us bigger because we serve a mighty big God. If the earth is his footstool, we serve a big God. So God will journey you in a small place, but Zion is always calling you to an upper room, a bigger place, bigger than where you are right now. But first, he has to groom you. He has to prepare you. He has to trust you. He has to test and try you before he can elevate you. And if you keep quitting and throwing in the towel because you're tired of the room you in, you're going to stay in that room until you fall in love with it. And then that's when you outgrow it.
I think a lot of times too, what holds a lot of us back is not only what people are saying about us or to us of telling us what we can and cannot do, and obviously it's never good for us to buy into these things that people say, but I think it's also a big part of what we tell ourselves and what we allow ourselves to believe. You know, a lot of times when we step out on faith to pursue a goal or a dream or to pursue a higher, version of ourselves, a lot of times the first thing that presents itself for a lot of us is either the anxiety, the nervousness, or the fear. And a lot of us, we allow these things to stop us and make us feel some type of way about ourselves, to where when we done doing whatever it is that we're doing for the first time, we begin to put so much judgment on it that it literally alters our mind and our path of pursuing, this or whatever your goals or dreams may be, further. And so, like, I think that's a big thing too. I remember when I was trying to pursue acting, and I remember the first time, like, I would go out for like the auditions, whether I was doing a tape audition or whether I was in front of somebody, even like being on the stage or whatever like that. It's like, soon as I was getting ready to do it, all of these thoughts of not being enough or not being able to succeed or do all these things to start like flooding. You know what I mean? So it's just like, yeah, I was taking a leap of faith, but at the same time, it was like all these other things started presenting themselves. So it's just like, am I really taking a leap of faith, or am I trying to muster up enough faith to tell myself that I can do it? You know what I mean? Like, I could do this, but then it's just like, at the same time, I'm like, bro, like, I'm so scared. Or like, it's like, at the end of the day, I feel like, what do we have to lose if we just take a shot? If we just take a chance and actually like put ourselves in the position, you know what I mean, to be all that we can be, you know what I mean, and to come out of these small-minded places, you know what I mean? And like you say, even these small-minded friend groups, a lot of times people take it so personal when you outgrow them. And that's one thing people don't, even like sometimes when you outgrow a person, you may take it personal because you may feel like, yo, why is this person no longer in my life? Like, or what happened to the friendship, or the friendship was good, or da like that. Like, and sometimes we take it so personal, but we don't realize that when we outgrow anything or anyone, we should celebrate. That's because we reached a new level in ourselves. And that's one thing that I've been learning, all my life. And like, I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, it's not a struggle. Like, sometimes, yeah, I do feel a type of way if I no longer have a certain, friend group or whatever like that. But at the end of the day, when I get over myself and I get past the feelings and the emotions of it, I'm like, I see what you was doing right there, God. I see why you had to remove this people or that person or whatever it may be. I see why you had to do that. You know what I mean? Or I even see why you had to take me out of their life, because they've outgrown me. You know what I mean?
Growing will always cost you something. And a lot of times the greatest price of growing is pain.
Yeah, it is. And it, like I said, at the end of the day, when you just have to allow yourself to not take it personal and not feel like, oh, that people are against you now and they hate you and all this other stuff like that. You know what I mean? Whatever they may feel behind it or whatever like that, that's their personal feeling. But I'm talking about in you personally moving on, because that's what stops a lot of us from like moving past certain things. You know what I mean? Is because like we do get caught up in, oh, this person's going to feel this way. Or then sometimes people may try to manipulate us, and, with their feelings and their emotions, or we may do that to people. You know what I mean? But you just can't take it personal. And like I said, every time you're outgrowing somebody or somebody is outgrowing you, learn to celebrate, because that means that now you are in a greater place in your life and you're moving towards something greater than what you were personally in. You know what I mean? Like, when I see people leave a job, I don't, let's celebrate. You know what I mean? Because it's not that, oh, dang, you're leaving. No, let's celebrate, because you're choosing to step out on faith and do bigger and better things. You've outgrown this place, and that encourages people that's still there. like, wait, if they can outgrow this place and if they can get to a place to where this place no longer suits who they are in life, and not saying like you complain or you be angry about it or no, or I'm just going to no, but it's just like you realize my time is up. You know what I mean? I've outgrown this place. I've gave all that I can give to this place that I'm in right now, and now I feel that God is moving me into something different. So I'm just going to, go where God is leading me and where life is taking me, and I'm just going to go there. But like, again, my biggest point in all of this is to say, just to begin to celebrate the exits. You know what I mean? Whether it be from places or people or things.
I thank God that he shows us who people are, because if he don't show us the truth, even about ourselves, we'll stay small and we'll continue to live in small places. Yes, small places are inevitable for our growing and for where we're going. But the thing and the key is that we cannot get stuck in these places. And a lot of times, as we stated earlier, that we stay stuck in small places and small mindsets and emotions and feelings and thoughts is because we are afraid of the unknown. And we're afraid that we're not good enough. And we're afraid of being alone. And we're afraid that we'll fail. And we're afraid that it won't happen. But God wants you to know there's a season for everything. There's a time and a season for everything. And when God is calling you from a small place, he's not saying you're better than them, they, or the others. He's just saying that your life is called to something greater, because everybody plays a role on this earth. And you have to know your role. And you also have to know the time that you are destined to outgrow even yourself. Look at it. When you were a child, I can't put those same pants on you that I brought you home from the hospital in. I don't even think your arm can get in those pants, because you were small for a season. But now you're a grown man. So sometimes we feel like we need to stay in small places so that we can feel connected and close to things that serves no purpose.
I think the biggest thing too is like when you saying that is a comfort zone. And a lot of people are known to be addicted to comfort, and this is just, for me, this works. You know what I mean? You'll see people that'll stay in a place for like 15, 20, 35 years. And not saying it's a bad thing. If that's where God is calling you to be, then amen, all glory to God. You know what I mean? But sometimes it's just like people get so comfortable in those places. You know what I mean? I've always wondered, like when we left Detroit, what was your mindset? Like when you I gotta leave Detroit and go to a whole new place. I mean, in every place that we went to, from New York to Jersey, Pennsylvania to Virginia to Georgia to LA, back to Georgia. Like, what was your mindset in all of these things? Because you got to think about it. These are first time things, you know what I mean, for you. These are things that you have never done before.
I've always known from I'll say in my teens, I've always known that I was not able to fit in places. I wasn't able to stay in places. I have always been a person that I'm here today and gone tomorrow. And I believe that's the way God has ordained my life to be, because every time I hear him say go, it's always it gets better and better each trip. But for me to leave Detroit, the Lord got me out of there, because you wouldn't have had a mama to raise you, because I was going to blow up the church and the people in it. That's how angry I was. So I thank God that he will get us out of places that are way too small for us. Because if you're me, I don't like being crammed up in a small place. I need room to breathe, room to think, room to expand, room to grow. And so that's why I don't have a lot of people in my life. Yes, I'm a sociable woman. I love people, but I can't let my life get crowded like it used to be, especially with small-minded people. And those are the people that makes you feel you're not good enough, or tell you that you cannot do this, that, or the other, or try to step on your neck so that you can't get up and be greater, because those are the people that never seen anything good for themselves. So if they could stop you, then they feel like they won and that they're powerful. But God knows how to break that foot, split that crowd, and he knows how to get you out of those small places, because again, life and God and Zion is going to always call you to bigger rooms. But the thing you have to understand is that when he call you, you have to go empty handed, and you might get to carry a few people or a few things with you, but don't count on it. Because sometimes you may have to go alone, because your room is bigger than where you're willing to settle. And you will never be fully blessed and pleased and satisfied in your soul if you continue to settle for the smaller room after the smaller room have already served purpose in your life.
I think when I look back at all the times that we, moved and picked up and left and went here and there, I think at first, like, obviously, as a child, you think, well,
What's
dang,
wrong with mama?
Nah, not even. You just think like, dang, like, we didn't even get a chance to connect. But what I like that you said is that sometimes you have to realize in life that there are just certain places and people and things that God won't allow you to fully connect to. You may have a small time,
season.
a small window to connect here, and and that's just it. But I think it's always taught me that, first of all, you always move on, you always move higher, you always move on to better things. And I also believe that it taught me like that life is always presenting fresh starts to you. That there's always a window of opportunity to start over, and God will allow you those, windows and those times in your life when he feel that it is needed. And so, like, in all the moving, like, yeah, we made friends and we got friends in like different area codes, but at the end of the day, like, it's a blessing. You know what I mean? Because like at the end of the day, like I said, it's taught us a lot. Even in my life now, it's taught me how to disconnect when it's time. You know what I mean? It's taught me how to move on. It's taught me how to think beyond, because I remember every time, like, when you would come to us and say that we're going to move or we're going to go here, the first thing that I will always do is, God is my witness, I would try to envision like what it's going to be like. And I would paint this picture in my mind that it's going to be this. And it was never a small minded picture to paint. It was always something that's going to be like, okay, this is going to be excellent. You know what I mean? Not no prideful way or anything like that. But it was just like my vision of what was next was always bigger than where we were at that present moment. And so that's what I personally, thank God for, is that the visions, that they were always greater, and that everything that he was doing, it was always with purpose and plan, obviously, to birth something new in us. But I thank God for every time that we were able to start fresh, and we were able to, even sometimes, like you said, we were able to take certain things or certain people along with us, but then eventually those people or things fell off. You know what I mean? Because like you said, and as we talked about it, everything serves a purpose, and everything, has its time, and there's an expiration date and like that. But I just personally, overall, I thank God, and I even thank God for this podcast, because it actually, like, it opened up a lot, for me, in this time. And I'm grateful for it, you know what I mean? And it will continue to help me as I go forward in my life and make the necessary changes and moves that I need to make, and going forward. So I just encourage everybody that's basically listening to this is to know that wherever you are right now, it's not your end all be all. God has greater things in store for you, but you just have to allow yourself to think beyond the box that you or either other people try to put yourself in the present season that you find yourself in, because your life is so much bigger. Yes, you may start out preaching or teaching to one person, but eventually God's going to send the 500s or the thousands or the millions or whatever like that. And God is going to be able to do that, but you have to believe that he can do it. So I encourage y'all to just stay the course. And I even encourage myself to do the same thing, and you as well, to get into these things, because sometimes we have all these ideas and these goals and plans that we want to do. And sometimes we're the only ones that's limiting ourselves because we don't serve a limit to God. We serve a God that has no limits and that's able to do exceedingly abundantly above. And that's why I love those words so much, is because he's letting us know life is bigger than what you see it as. And so I thank God for that. But I encourage us all to just stay the course and just keep going and keep growing and climbing higher. But that's all I feel I have to say.
Yeah. And I just want to say that I thank God for me being spirit led, even when I didn't know I was being led by the Spirit. Because what God showed me, and when I look back over my life, God was just preparing us for the bigger room. Just like Ray Kia said to me last week, Mom, all that time when we were leaving, it was preparing, because she has been traveling so much. You have even traveled. I have traveled and getting ready to travel some more. It just, because if you don't get out of those small places, and if the back door and the backyard is the only thing, is your vision, is your only vision, you will never launch out into the deep and see the bigger things that God has in store for you. And so I thank God that even though others may have called me crazy for stepping out of this, that, and the other, or walking away from them, they, or that, or those, whatever it is, I know that every step, I started small, but each time I took the step out of obedience, the steps enlarge themselves. And the room keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I encourage you to not settle. It's okay to start in the small places, but don't plant your garden there. Don't get stuck there. Don't reside there. And don't let your vision be only in that room. Continue to think, believe, and feel yourself in a bigger place, because God has greater for you. And I thank God, because sometimes we can get comfortable in small places. And for me, being in a small place, I feel suffocated. And I'm tired of allowing myself to feel suffocated when the other room has more air for me to breathe. So let's be encouraged. And let's get away from the small-minded people. I don't care if you know them, like God told me a long time ago. Don't you ever get caught up on the quantity of relationships. I want you to be caught up on the quality, because you can stay in a small situation, a small relationship, a small mindset, because you've known somebody 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And you know that atmosphere and that relationship depletes you. It takes away. It diminishes you. But because you are loyal to the quantity, you keep yourself in a small place and you miss out on what life has in store for you. So I encourage you again to enjoy your small beginnings, because when you can celebrate them, the next room is bigger than the room you are in right now. Trust God and believe, and we thank God that we're back. And we will continue these podcasts. So I pray that we've encouraged you, inspired you, and uplifted you. You are blessed. You are bigger than where you are now. And I pray that you will look beyond your back door, your backyard, or even your small mindset, and know that Zion is calling you to a bigger and higher and better room. God bless, and we're out.
This is the naked truth, and we out.
I need a savior. I've been reaching, I've been searching for a savior. Someone to come save my soul. I need a savior. Sleepless nights, man, I've been yearning for a savior. Praying peace possess my soul, 'cause I've been seeking and running, looking for you. It's your light in the darkness seeing me through. Said I've been seeking and running, looking for you. It's your light in the darkness seeing me through. I need a savior.